Red eyes in the woods, wings over abandoned bunkers, tracks in the snow no animal should leave. Police officers chasing something that runs on two legs. Ranchers finding creatures that look like nothing they've ever seen. Across America, witnesses keep reporting the same impossible encounters. Are these misidentified animals, or something far stranger hiding just beyond the edge of the headlights? Because some of these sightings didn't vanish, they left evidence. At the edge of Boggy Creek, Fuke, Arkansas, sat low in the timber and swamp country south of Texarkana, where roads narrowed, houses stood apart, and sound carried differently at night. Long before the story reached national papers, local people had traded quieter reports about something moving through the bottomland near Sulphur River and Boggy Creek. The case that fixed the place in American cryptid history began in early May of 1971, when Bobby Ford told officers that a large, hairy figure had come onto his property and attacked him outside his home. Later reference works on the case, drawing on the reporting of the time, place the best-known event at Ford's house near Fuke, and note that older local reports had already existed, including one from 1946. Ford's description was unusually physical and specific. He said the figure was man-like, about 7 feet tall, broad through the chest, quick in its movements, and marked by heavy breathing and red eyes. According to the account preserved by the Encyclopedia of Arkansas, he said the creature put an arm around his shoulder and grabbed him. He broke away and ran so fast that he did not stop to open the front door but crashed through it. He was later treated at a local hospital for minor scratches and shock. Those details mattered because they moved the report away from a distant glimpse across a field. This was presented, from the beginning, as a close encounter in a yard, at a house, within reach of witnesses and law officers. The family had been uneasy before the main report. Elizabeth Ford said she had seen a hairy arm with claws come in through a window while she was asleep in the front room, and she also described seeing red eyes. Bobby Ford said the presence around the house had lasted for several days. On the night that later became central to the case, Ford and companions reportedly used a flashlight to locate the figure behind the house. They fired at it and thought they saw it fall. Then, after screams came from the house, Ford ran back and said he was attacked there. This sequence, repeated in state reference material and later summaries of the original coverage, gave the event its persistent shape. Movement around the property, a brief armed response, then a closer confrontation at the doorway. Investigators did not leave the matter at rumor. Officers searched the area. What they reported finding was limited but concrete. Unusual tracks, scratches on the porch, and damage around the home. The Encyclopedia of Arkansas states that the sheriff's department found strange tracks and claw scratches on the porch, while later compiled reporting adds damage to a window and the siding. Just as important was what they did not find. Although the men believed they had hit the figure, investigators found no blood. That absence did not stop the story. It changed the tone of it. From that point forward, the case rested on witness statements, marks at the site, and the fact that nothing collected there settled the matter either way. The role of local media was immediate and unusually important. Jim Powell of the Texarkana Gazette and the Texarkana Daily News went to the Ford property with KTFS radio director Dave Hall and found a family that, according to the later Arkansas reference account, was frightened, and in the process of moving out of a house it had owned for less than a week. Powell's follow-up article introduced the phrase Fuka Monster, and that name stayed. Both the Associated Press and United Press International moved the story beyond Miller County. A local report about a family house in swamp country was turned, within days, into a regional and then national item. This shift from household disturbance to named creature is one of the clearest documented stages in the case. Once the report had a name, more sightings attached themselves to the same geography. A later summary, preserved in compiled references, notes that on the 23rd of May, 1971, D.C. Woods Jr., Wilma Woods, and Mrs. R.H. Sedgas said they saw an ape-like creature crossing U.S. Highway 71. Through the following months, more people reported seeing something similar, and additional tracks were said to have been found. The best-known prints were discovered in a soybean field owned by Scott Keith, a local filling station operator. Those tracks received attention because they were described as three-toed, matching the more unusual details that had already begun to separate the Fuke reports from standard bear or stray animal explanations. The landscape around Fuke helped determine how the case was understood. The bottomland there was dense, wet, and difficult to read at night. The area was crossed by creeks, timber, and muddy fields that could hold prints for a short time and then lose them. That mattered when people attempted to check stories against the ground. A track could appear sharp in one patch, and disappear a few yards later. Sound could travel, distort, or seem closer than it was. None of this proves a creature, and none of it dismisses a witness. It explains why the reports remained fixed to place. In the record, Boggy Creek and the heavy woods around Fook are not background decoration. They are part of the case file. Searches and examinations followed, but they did not close the matter. 1 month after the Ford report, Southern State College archaeologist Frank Schambach examined some of the tracks and said there was a 99% chance they were a hoax, arguing that 3 toed prints did not fit any ape or hominid model. That statement entered the public record alongside continued witness reporting rather than replacing it. A game warden, Carl Gallion, was also noted in later compiled accounts as being unable to confirm the authenticity of some later tracks. The file therefore stayed divided between formal doubt and local insistence. No preserved source from the period shows a final finding accepted by everyone involved. What makes the Bobby Ford report stand apart from many cryptid stories is not only the claim of seeing a large figure, it is the density of ordinary details around it. A house recently purchased, a wife asleep in the front room, men outside with a flashlight, gunfire, a rushed return to the door, scratches that could be photographed, a hospital visit for shock and minor injuries, a constable receiving the complaint, a reporter arriving while the family was leaving. These are the kinds of details that allowed the case to persist in print without becoming abstract. Even later, retellings that lean toward folklore keep returning to the same domestic facts because they were recorded early and remain stable. The case also changed the town itself. After Powell's reporting named the creature, the story left the Ford yard and entered circulation as a shared object. Wires carried it. Sightings multiplied. The 1972 film, The Legend of Boggy Creek, then widened the reach again, using the event as the basis for a pseudo-documentary account filmed in the area with local people involved. By then, the original report had already moved through several stages: private fear, police response, newspaper naming, regional repetition, and commercial retelling. The documented case did not become simpler as it spread. It became more layered, with the early house encounter remaining at the center, while later tracks, highway sightings, and public searches settled around it. Near the beginning, the record is still narrow enough to hold in view. A man in Miller County said something large came onto his property in May 1971. He described being grabbed. His family described red eyes and a hairy arm at the window. Officers found marks but no blood. Reporters gave the thing a name. After that, the case stopped belonging only to the people at the house and began to belong to the road between Fook and Texarkana, the soybean fields, the creek bottoms, and the papers that kept printing the same place name beside the same kind of report. Where the Hill Kept Its Light, a quiet rural community in Braxton County, West Virginia, sat among low hills, scattered homes, school grounds, and farmland in 1952. On the evening of September 12, several local boys said they saw a bright object move across the sky and appear to descend beyond a nearby hill. Instead of investigating alone, they ran to find an adult. A local beautician named Kathleen May went with them, accompanied by other boys and Eugene Lemon, a young member of the National Guard. The witnesses' names were recorded early and remained consistent in later accounts: Kathleen May, Eugene Lemon, Teddy May, Ronald Shaver, Neil Nunley, Teddy Neal, and Tommy Heyer. Because those names were documented soon after the incident, the beginning of the event remained unusually clear compared with many other cryptid reports, which often rely on uncertain memories or second-hand descriptions. The case did not begin with an unknown footprint, a sound in the woods. It began with a visible object in the sky and a short walk uphill toward the place where the witnesses thought it had landed. That detail matters because it shaped how the event was later filed and discussed. It was treated partly as a creature report and partly as an aerial incident. History's review of the case notes that the sighting later drew attention from the U.S. Air Force under Project Blue Book, the government program that handled unidentified flying object reports during that period. In practical terms, the Flatwoods report entered 2 records at once: a local account of a strange figure on a hill, and a broader Cold War-era pattern of unexplained aerial observations. When the group reached the top of the rise near the Fisher farm, they reported seeing a pulsing light beyond the hill. Then, according to the West Virginia Encyclopedia, they turned their flashlight and saw a large man-like figure, described as nearly 12 feet tall and about 4 feet wide. The same source records a red face, bright green clothing hanging in folds below the waist, and a head shaped like the ace of spades. An almost metallic odor was also reported. The witnesses ran. A later check of the site found lingering odor, 2 large skid marks, and trampled grass. These physical details, though limited, became central to the case because they gave investigators and reporters something more than a spoken description. The marks did not settle the matter, but they widened it from sighting to incident scene. The descriptions were never fully identical. That inconsistency is part of the value of the record rather than a flaw to be removed from it. Later summaries, including the AP account and History's review, describe the figure as tall, hovering, or floating, with a red face, glowing or reflective eyes, a pointed hood-like outline, and a green body or green, armor-like surface. In local reporting from the time, the creature was even described in newspaper language as Frankenstein-like. These shifts in wording show how eyewitness material changes once it passes from frightened observation into print. Height may increase, motion may become more definite. A shape seen for a moment through darkness and a flashlight beam begins to harden into a single image, even when the first witnesses did not all use the same terms. The behavior of the witnesses also remained part of the documented case. The group did not approach further once the figure was seen. They fled quickly and reported the matter. History preserves recollections that one of the boys lost control of his bladder and that the dog with them ran with its tail down. These details are plain and ordinary, which is partly why they remained attached to the story. They do not explain what was on the hill, but they describe the witness response in a direct way. In reports of unusual creatures, the immediate human reaction often tells more than later embellishment. Here the reaction was brief, practical, and local. Run downhill, get away from the odor, tell authorities, repeat what was seen as best as possible. The news system of 1952 helped turn the Flatwoods encounter into one of the most widely known cryptid-related incidents in the United States. History notes that the report quickly moved from local coverage into national radio and newspapers. The Associated Press later summarized how the event spread far beyond Braxton County and how outside investigators, reporters, and curiosity seekers followed. What began on a hill near a farm became a national item at a moment when public attention to unidentified objects in the sky was already unusually high. The timing is important. September 1952 fell within a period when flying saucer reports were being collected, debated, and printed across the country. A local creature report attached to a visible light in the sky could move much farther than a report about footsteps near a creek or an animal seen beside a road. The scene itself was small, but the environment around it shaped the report. Flatwoods was not an urban setting with electric glare and heavy traffic. It was a dark hillside approached on foot after dusk. Flashlight beams, distance, rising ground, foliage, and the stress of climbing toward a place where something had just fallen from the sky, all affected what could be seen and how it would be remembered. The West Virginia Encyclopedia notes that the figure appeared after the witnesses saw the pulsing light, and that the later investigation found trampled grass and skid marks, but little else. That combination of sparse physical signs and strong visual memory is one reason the case remained durable. The hill did not yield an object, body, or machine. It yielded a setting, a sequence, and a narrow cluster of sensory claims. The official and semi-official record around the event stayed open rather than final. The National Archives confirms that Project Blue Book records were kept on unidentified flying object investigations and later declassified. History states that the Flatwoods event prompted a Blue Book inquiry, placing it within the Air Force's broader effort to collect such reports. Yet no widely accepted finding closed the case in a way that displaced the original witness narrative. Later skeptical interpretations suggested ordinary explanations for parts of the event, but those came after the basic witness statements had already entered local memory and print culture. For the purposes of the historical record, what matters is not whether every later explanation is persuasive. What matters is that the case passed through formal attention without being resolved into a single agreed account. Over time, the Flatwoods report moved from incident to landmark. The West Virginia Encyclopedia notes that Flatwoods marked the 50th anniversary in 2002, and that a museum dedicated to the subject now operates in Sutton. AP reporting describes the museum as a place where many versions of the event, from sketches to popular reinterpretations, are collected in one room. That later tourism matters less for spectacle than for record keeping. It shows how a local event from one September evening remained fixed to names, place, and date. Unlike many creature stories that drift free of origin, the Flatwoods case stayed tied to a schoolyard, a hill, a farm, a group of identified witnesses, and a walk that began just after a bright light crossed the sky. The enduring shape of the case lies in that narrow progression. Boys at play noticed something overhead. They fetched an adult. A small group climbed toward the reported landing area. A figure was seen in the beam of a flashlight. The air was said to carry a sharp odor. The ground later showed marks, but no decisive evidence. Newspapers carried the story outward. Federal interest briefly touched it through a UFO reporting system already active in the United States. After that, the hill remained in place, and the account remained attached to it, with the same names returning each time the event was written down. Something moving beside the ditch on Bray Road. A narrow agricultural road outside Elkhorn, Wisconsin, became the center of repeated reports beginning in the late 1980s. Drivers traveling that route at night described seeing a large animal near the roadside fields and drainage ditches. The road, known locally as Bray Road, ran through farmland and patches of woodland in Walworth County. Traffic there was light after dark. Most observations occurred when a car's headlights briefly illuminated the shoulder of the road. One of the earliest widely cited sightings occurred in 1989 when a resident named Karen Sanchez reported seeing an unusual animal while driving along Bray Road late at night. According to reporting summarized in the Walworth County Week and later documented by journalist Linda S. Godfrey, Sanchez described a large wolf-like creature standing upright near the edge of the road. She slowed the car and watched it for several seconds in the headlights before it moved away toward the trees. Her description included pointed ears, heavy fur, and a posture that resembled a person standing on two legs rather than a four-legged animal. The report remained a local curiosity until additional witnesses came forward. Several residents of Walworth County later contacted police or newspapers describing similar encounters. Some said they saw a large canine figure crouched beside the road that rose upright when approached by a vehicle. Others reported the creature already standing upright in the ditch beside the road. The accounts often included reflective eyes visible in headlights and dark fur covering the body. Local authorities were occasionally notified when sightings occurred. Deputies from the Walworth County Sheriff's Department sometimes drove the road after receiving reports from residents. Officers did not locate any large animal matching the descriptions during those checks. Because the encounters usually lasted only seconds and occurred at night, investigators were often responding after the witness had already left the area. Interest in the sightings increased during the early 1990s after Linda S. Godfrey began investigating the reports while working as a journalist. Her early articles appeared in the Walworth County Week newspaper. Godfrey interviewed multiple witnesses and compared their statements. In later summaries of her reporting, she noted that many descriptions shared certain features: a tall, upright posture, a canine-like head, and a body covered in dark hair or fur. Some witnesses also reported seeing the animal drop to all fours before running toward the tree line. The location itself remained an important constant in the reports. Bray Road ran between farm fields and wooded sections that bordered drainage, ditches, and small creeks. Deer, coyotes, and other wildlife frequently moved through the area. The road's narrow width and lack of street lighting meant that animals near the roadside often appeared suddenly in headlights and disappeared quickly once a vehicle passed. Several witnesses described the creature near animal carcasses along the roadside. One motorist reported seeing the animal bent over what appeared to be roadkill. When the vehicle approached, the figure reportedly lifted its head and rose upright before moving away from the road. Accounts like this were documented by Godfrey during interviews with residents who had contacted the newspaper after the first articles appeared. Newspaper coverage helped establish a consistent label for the sightings. Local media began referring to the unidentified animal as the Beast of Bray Road, a name that remained attached to the case in later reporting. The label appeared frequently in regional news coverage during the early 1990s as additional witnesses contacted journalists describing encounters along the same stretch of road. Although the descriptions were similar in certain ways, not every witness reported the same posture or behavior. Some drivers described the animal moving on all fours like a large dog or wolf. Others insisted that the creature stood upright or walked on two legs for part of the encounter. Height estimates also varied depending on distance and lighting conditions. Witnesses observing the animal from a moving vehicle often saw it only briefly before it disappeared into nearby woods. Local officials did not identify a specific species responsible for the sightings. Officers who searched the roadside areas after reports were filed generally did not find clear tracks or remains. Because the encounters occurred intermittently and lasted only moments, the record of the case remained dependent largely on eyewitness statements. The Bray Road sightings continued sporadically through the early 1990s. Several residents told reporters they avoided the road at night after hearing about the encounters. Others drove through the area, hoping to see the animal themselves. The concentration of reports along one rural road helped keep the story tied to a specific location rather than spreading widely across the region. Newspaper coverage, witness interviews, and later books preserved the basic details of the reports. The case remained defined by several consistent elements: nighttime sightings, a wolf-like animal, upright posture in some encounters, and repeated observations along the same agricultural road in Walworth County. Newspaper lines that traced a creature through winter. Printed reports began appearing in multiple American newspapers during the third week of January, 1909, describing a strange winged creature seen by residents across southern New Jersey. The accounts moved quickly through regional press networks and described a similar figure appearing in towns, along rural roads, and near rail lines during several cold nights. The stories were connected not by a single witness but by the pattern of sightings that spread through the Pine Barrens region within a short period of time. Early newspaper archives preserved these descriptions with dates, witness names, and locations that could be traced across several counties. One of the earliest detailed accounts appeared on the 19th of January 1909, when residents in the town of Bristol, Pennsylvania, reported seeing a strange animal crossing rooftops. According to archive reporting, later summarized by the New York Times, several witnesses described a creature with wings, a long neck, and an unusual head shape. Observers said the figure moved across the tops of buildings before disappearing into the darkness. Police officers who were called to the area searched the streets but did not locate any animal matching the description. Within hours of that report, similar sightings were recorded across the Delaware River in southern New Jersey. The same newspaper reported that residents of Burlington and Gloucester counties claimed to have seen a large flying creature moving across fields and roads during the night. Several witnesses described the animal leaving unusual tracks in the snow. The tracks were said to resemble hoof-like impressions that appeared in a line across rooftops and open ground. Local police departments responded to some of these reports. Officers in Camden and other nearby towns investigated claims of strange tracks appearing on sidewalks and rooftops after the sightings were reported. According to newspaper coverage preserved in regional archives and summarized by the Library of Congress, officers followed several sets of tracks for short distances before they disappeared in open areas. The marks reportedly continued over fences and roofs without clear interruption. Descriptions of the creature varied slightly from witness to witness. Many observers said the figure possessed large wings and a narrow body, while others described a long tail or a horse-like head. Several accounts mentioned that the creature emitted a high-pitched sound while flying. These differences appeared in newspaper articles printed over several days, reflecting the independent observations of residents across different towns. During the night of January 20, sightings were reported in Haddon Heights and Collingswood, New Jersey. According to coverage preserved in newspaper archives, residents claimed to have seen the creature flying low above the streets before disappearing into nearby wooded areas. In some reports, groups of people gathered outdoors after hearing unusual noises and watched the figure pass overhead. The spread of sightings prompted organized searches. Hunters and local residents entered nearby woods, attempting to locate the animal described in the reports. Some groups carried rifles and lanterns, while searching farmland and forest paths during the evenings following the first sightings. Despite these efforts, no animal matching the descriptions was captured or identified. Railroad workers also contributed to the record of sightings. Several employees of rail lines passing through southern New Jersey told reporters they had seen a large winged creature crossing tracks during early morning hours. These statements appeared in newspapers at the time and were later summarized in historical discussions of the event. Witnesses said the animal moved through the air quickly and disappeared into wooded sections of the Pine Barren. The geographic spread of the reports became one of the most notable aspects of the event. Within roughly a week, sightings had been reported across multiple counties, including Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester. Some accounts also appeared in nearby Pennsylvania towns. Newspapers often repeated earlier descriptions when printing later sightings, which helped create a consistent image of the creature in public coverage. Although the reports were widely discussed at the time, investigators did not confirm the existence of an unknown animal responsible for the sightings. Police searches and hunting parties did not locate a creature matching the descriptions. The case remained defined primarily by newspaper reports, eyewitness statements, and the unusual tracks observed in snow during the January weather conditions. Historians reviewing early 20th century newspaper archives Note that the sightings occurred during a period when winter snow made tracks visible across roads, rooftops, and open fields. That environmental detail allowed witnesses and investigators to follow marks across several properties before they disappeared. The event remained one of the earliest widely reported cryptid sightings in the United States because of the number of newspaper articles printed during the same week and the large geographic area covered by the reports. Newspaper dispatches that followed a night of unusual tracks. Reports of a strange winged animal began circulating through several American newspapers during the third week of January, 1909. Editors printed short dispatches describing a creature seen moving across rooftops, farm fields, and rail lines during cold winter nights. These reports appeared almost simultaneously across southern New Jersey and parts of eastern Pennsylvania. The accounts shared certain physical details, including wings, a narrow body, and unusual tracks left in the snow. The events became widely known in later years through the label commonly attached to the sightings, but the earliest record exists primarily through dated newspaper articles and police statements collected during that week. One of the earliest widely cited sightings occurred during the night of the 19th of January, 1909. According to archived reporting from the New York Times, residents of Bristol, Pennsylvania, reported seeing a winged creature moving across the rooftops of houses. Witnesses described a figure with large wings and a long body. Police officers responded to the area after residents reported the sighting. Officers searched nearby streets and rooftops but did not locate an animal matching the description. Within hours of the Bristol report, similar sightings were described in several towns across southern New Jersey. Newspaper articles from the same week described residents in Burlington County reporting a strange creature flying low over fields and rural roads. Some witnesses said the animal appeared to have the body of a large bird, combined with features resembling a horse's head. These descriptions were printed in newspapers that were later archived and summarized by the Library of Congress through its historical newspaper collections. Several reports from that week also mentioned unusual tracks discovered in the snow. According to early 20th century coverage preserved in the Library of Congress newspaper archive, residents in towns including Riverside and Haddon Heights described finding hoof-shaped impressions in the snow that appeared to move across rooftops, fences, and open ground. Local residents and police officers reportedly followed these tracks for short distances before they disappeared. Police departments in several towns investigated the claims after receiving calls from residents. Officers in Camden and nearby communities examined some of the reported tracks during the mornings following the sightings. The marks were described in newspaper coverage as resembling small hoof prints rather than bird tracks. In some locations, the impressions reportedly appeared on rooftops and then continued across nearby streets. Investigators were unable to determine what animal had made them. During the same week, additional sightings were reported by workers traveling early in the morning. Railroad employees told reporters they had seen a large winged creature crossing the tracks in wooded sections of southern New Jersey. These statements appeared in newspaper reports, summarized later in historical articles, including coverage discussed by the Smithsonian Magazine in its review of the 1,909 sightings. The railroad witnesses described a dark figure moving quickly through the air before disappearing into nearby forest. The reports spread quickly across the region through newspaper distribution networks. Articles describing sightings appeared in multiple publications during the same week, often repeating the earlier descriptions printed in neighboring towns. This repetition helped create a consistent public image of the creature described by witnesses. By the end of the week, sightings had been reported across several counties, including Burlington, Camden, and Gloucester in New Jersey. Residents responded to the reports by organizing searches in nearby woods and farmland. Groups of hunters and local residents walked through sections of the Pine Barrens carrying lanterns and rifles in an attempt to locate the animal described in the newspapers. These searches were mentioned in contemporary reporting but did not result in the discovery of an unknown creature. Weather conditions during that week likely contributed to the attention given to the sightings. Snow on the ground made tracks visible in areas where they might normally have gone unnoticed. Newspaper accounts frequently mentioned that the unusual marks appeared clearly in the snow before disappearing where the ground became bare or where wind had disturbed the surface. Investigators and local authorities did not produce a confirmed identification for the animal described in the reports. Police searches and citizen patrols ended without locating a creature responsible for the sightings. The events, therefore, remained recorded primarily through witness statements and the newspaper coverage printed during January 1909. Historical discussions of the event continue to reference the early press reports because they provide the earliest dated descriptions of the sightings. Those accounts documented a brief period during which multiple towns reported seeing a similar winged figure moving through the winter landscape of southern New Jersey and nearby Pennsylvania. Letters delivered to a sheriff's office in the summer of 2000. 2 photographs and a handwritten letter arrived at a law enforcement office in Sarasota County, Florida, during the summer of 2000. The envelope was addressed to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office. Inside were 2 printed images showing a large, dark, ape-like animal moving through vegetation. The letter claimed the photographs had been taken near the eastern edge of Sarasota County, close to the Everglades watershed. The sender did not provide a name. The person signing the letter simply stated that the animal had been seen repeatedly near a backyard fence and was responsible for killing several cats in the area. Deputies receiving the material logged it as a report connected to the long-standing Florida skunk ape sightings. The photographs showed a large figure, partially obscured by brush. The animal appeared to be standing upright, covered in dark hair, with long arms hanging forward. According to later summaries of the case preserved by the National Park Service and regional archives, the sheriff's office acknowledged receiving the photographs but could not determine what animal was depicted. The anonymous letter described a pattern of visits by the animal. The writer claimed the creature appeared near a rural residential property on multiple nights. According to the text of the letter, the witness first noticed the animal near a wooden fence separating the yard from nearby vegetation. The letter stated that the animal stood upright and moved slowly along the fence line before disappearing into brush behind the property. The writer also described a strong odor associated with the animal, which has frequently appeared in earlier reports of large ape-like creatures in southern Florida. Copies of the photographs were later circulated publicly and became widely known as the Myakka skunk ape photographs, referring to the nearby Myakka River State Park located in the same region of Sarasota County. Investigators and wildlife experts examined the images, but no definitive identification was produced. Some observers suggested the animal might be a black bear standing upright. Others argued that the proportions of the body appeared unusual when compared with known wildlife. The environment surrounding the reported sighting contained extensive wetlands and forested terrain. Large areas of southern Florida consist of swamp, palmetto thickets, and dense vegetation that limit visibility even during daylight. Wildlife commonly inhabiting the region includes black bears, feral hogs, deer, and large birds. Because of the thick vegetation and the limited access to certain swamp areas, brief sightings of animals often occur without clear observation. The sheriff's office did not confirm the identity of the animal photographed in the images. Deputies recorded the letter and photographs, but did not open a major investigation because the material did not include a confirmed witness identity or a precise location where the photographs had been taken. Without those details, officers could not conduct a detailed search of the area described in the letter. Despite the limited information, the photographs became one of the most widely discussed modern reports associated with the Florida skunk ape. Wildlife researchers who reviewed the images focused on the posture of the animal and the apparent length of its arms. Some observers suggested that lighting conditions and vegetation could distort the appearance of an animal photographed at a distance. Others noted that the photographs lacked scale references that might allow accurate measurement of the figure's size. Historical records show that reports of large ape-like animals in southern Florida date back several decades before the photographs were mailed. Accounts describing such animals were occasionally printed in regional newspapers during the 20th century. Witnesses often described a large, upright figure moving through swamp terrain and leaving behind a strong odor. These earlier reports were sometimes associated with remote sections of the Everglades and nearby wetlands. The 2000 photographs became notable primarily because they provided visual material rather than a verbal description alone. Although the images did not produce a confirmed identification, they added a photographic element to an existing body of witness reports describing large ape-like animals in the region. Wildlife authorities continued to emphasize that no unknown species had been confirmed in the area. Florida wildlife officials noted that black bears occasionally stand upright and can appear unusually large when seen briefly at a distance. Without additional evidence, investigators did not classify the photographed animal as an unknown species. The photographs and accompanying letter remained part of the public record of unusual wildlife reports in Florida because the original sender never revealed their identity. investigators could not obtain further testimony or additional photographs from the location described in the letter. A rancher's freezer held the animal that sparked national attention. During the summer of 2004, a ranch discovery in southern Texas became one of the most widely examined cryptid-related cases in the United States because it included physical evidence that could be tested. The event began when rancher Phyllis Canyon found the carcass of an unfamiliar animal on her property near Cuero in DeWitt County. Instead of discarding the body, she preserved it in a freezer so it could be examined later by wildlife experts. The unusual appearance of the animal and the photographs taken of it soon circulated through regional media and attracted national attention. The discovery followed several reports from ranchers in southern Texas describing hairless animals seen near poultry coops and livestock pen. Witnesses often described the creatures as thin, dog-like animals with bluish skin and little or no fur. Because the animals did not resemble healthy coyotes or dogs, some residents associated the sightings with the creature popularly called the chupacabra, a name already circulating in folklore, linked to livestock attacks in parts of Latin America and Puerto Rico during the 1990s. Phyllis Canyon first noticed something unusual when several chickens on her ranch were found dead. According to coverage published by the Victoria Advocate, she discovered the carcass of a strange, hairless animal near the area where the chickens had been killed. The body appeared elongated and thin, with wrinkled grey skin and prominent ribs visible through the hide. Canyon photographed the animal and preserved the remains so that specialists could later examine it. Photographs of the carcass began circulating through local media shortly after the discovery. The animal's unusual appearance quickly led to speculation that it might represent an unknown species. Several ranchers who had previously reported sightings of similar animals said the photographs resembled the creatures they had seen near their properties at night. These earlier sightings often involved animals moving near barns, chicken coops, or goat pens where small livestock were kept. The case attracted attention from wildlife biologists interested in identifying the animal. DNA analysis conducted on the preserved specimen indicated that the animal was a coyote suffering from severe sarcoptic mange, a disease caused by parasitic mites that can lead to extreme hair loss and skin thickening in infected animals. Sarcoptic mange can drastically alter the appearance of canines. Coyotes affected by the disease often lose most of their fur, leaving exposed grey or bluish skin. As the infection progresses, the skin becomes thickened and wrinkled, while the animal's body becomes emaciated due to difficulty hunting and feeding. These physical changes can make the animal appear unfamiliar even to people accustomed to seeing healthy coyotes in rural areas. Wildlife officials explained that mange outbreaks occur periodically among coyote populations across North America. Infected animals may travel unusual distances in search of food because the disease weakens them and reduces their ability to hunt effectively. When coyotes in this condition approach ranch buildings or residential areas looking for easy prey, they may be observed at close range by residents who are not expecting to encounter such an animal. After the photographs of the Cuero specimen were released publicly, the story spread through national news coverage. Reports distributed by the Associated Press described the discovery and the ongoing attempts by wildlife experts to identify the animal. The unusual photographs contributed to renewed public interest in unexplained animal sightings reported in Texas during that period. Additional carcasses resembling the Cuero animal were discovered in Texas in the years following the original report. In several of those cases, DNA testing again identified the animals as coyotes suffering from severe mange. Wildlife biologists noted that when coyotes lose their fur and become severely emaciated, their bodies can appear longer and thinner than normal. The loss of fur on the tail also causes it to appear narrow and rat-like rather than bushy. Despite these explanations, the Cuero discovery remained widely discussed because it included physical evidence that could be examined in detail. The preserved carcass allowed scientists to conduct laboratory testing rather than relying solely on eyewitness descriptions. Photographs taken before and after examination provided additional material for comparison with known wildlife species. Environmental conditions in southern Texas also contributed to the circumstances surrounding the sighting. Much of the region consists of ranchland covered with scrub vegetation and open fields. Coyotes are common predators in these areas and often hunt small animals such as rabbits, rodents, and poultry. When disease weakens a coyote, it may begin scavenging near human settlements where food sources are easier to access. The Cuero specimen therefore became one of the most frequently cited examples of how disease can alter the appearance of wild animals in ways that lead to misidentification. Wildlife researchers reviewing the case noted that severe mange infection can remove almost all fur from a canine's body while producing thickened, discolored skin. In low lighting conditions, such an animal can appear unfamiliar or even unrecognizable. Although scientific testing identified the Cuero animal as a diseased coyote, the discovery continued to appear in discussions of unexplained creatures because the photographs circulated widely through media and online discussions. The case illustrated how an unusual animal appearance, combined with regional folklore, could create a narrative that spread quickly through news coverage. The preserved carcass from the Cuero ranch eventually served as a reference point for later investigations of similar sightings across Texas. Wildlife biologists used the case to explain how mange can transform the physical appearance of coyotes and other canines, producing animals that look dramatically different from healthy individuals. Through newspaper reporting, laboratory testing, and continued public discussion, the Cuero case remained one of the most thoroughly examined incidents connected to the Texas Chupacabra reports. The combination of photographs, preserved remains, and DNA analysis allowed researchers to document the biological identity of the animal, while also illustrating how disease can influence eyewitness interpretations. The officer who filed the report before dawn, a patrol officer driving through rural Ohio during the early hours of the 18th of April 1966, stopped his vehicle after noticing an unusual animal standing near the roadside. The officer was Lonnie Zamora, not from the more widely discussed New Mexico case, but Patrolman Dale Spower of the Portage County Sheriff's Office, who was on duty that night when he encountered what he initially believed was a large dog or wolf near Ravenna, Ohio. The encounter became one of the best documented law enforcement cryptid reports in the United States because it involved multiple officers, radio dispatch records, and formal police reports filed immediately after the event. The incident began shortly after 5 a.m., when Patrolman Spar noticed a large animal near a rural road outside Ravenna. At first, he assumed the animal was a stray dog. As he slowed his patrol car, the animal moved across the road and into a nearby field. According to Spower's later written statement, the creature appeared unusually large and walked in a way that did not resemble a typical dog. Curious about the animal, Spower turned his patrol car toward the field and began following it. The creature moved quickly across the ground, and Spower reported that it suddenly rose onto two legs and began running upright. The officer later described the animal as resembling a large dog or wolf, but capable of standing and running on its hind legs. Spower radioed for assistance while continuing to follow the creature through fields and rural roads outside the town. Another officer soon joined the pursuit. Officer Wilbur Neff of the Ravenna Police Department arrived in a separate patrol car after hearing Spower's radio call. Together, the officers attempted to track the animal as it crossed roads and fields in the early morning darkness. According to the officers' statements, the creature moved extremely quickly and repeatedly disappeared into wooded areas before reappearing farther ahead. The pursuit lasted for several minutes and covered a distance of several miles across Portage County. Both officers later stated that the animal occasionally ran on all fours, but frequently rose upright and continued moving on two legs. That behavior distinguished the sighting from a typical wolf or dog encounter and became the central feature of the officers' reports. The officers eventually lost sight of the creature near a wooded area outside the town limits. After ending the pursuit, they returned to the station and filed formal incident reports describing what they had seen. The reports were taken seriously enough that the case later appeared in multiple investigative records, including summaries compiled by the Associated Press when the story became public through newspaper coverage. Local residents soon began discussing the incident after news of the officers' pursuit circulated in the area. Within days, several individuals contacted authorities claiming they had also seen a large upright animal in rural sections of Portage County. These additional sightings varied in detail but often described a creature with the body of a dog and the ability to run upright for short distances. The case became widely known as the Ohio werewolf sighting after newspapers reported the story. One of the earliest widely distributed articles appeared through Associated Press coverage, which described the officers' pursuit and quoted Spower's description of the animal. The article reported that the officers believed the creature weighed between 100 and 150 pounds and stood several feet tall when upright. Unlike many cryptid sightings, the Ohio incident involved trained observers accustomed to describing unusual situations in official reports. Both Spauer and Neff were experienced police officers who routinely documented wildlife encounters and suspicious activity during patrols. Their written statements emphasized the animal's unusual posture and speed rather than suggesting a supernatural explanation. Investigators attempted to determine whether the officers might have encountered a known animal species behaving in an unusual way. Wildlife experts consulted during the investigation noted that large dogs and wolves can occasionally rise onto their hind legs, though they rarely run long distances in that position. The reports describing sustained upright movement therefore remained difficult to reconcile with typical canine behavior. Environmental conditions during the encounter may have influenced the officers' observations. The pursuit occurred shortly before sunrise, when lighting conditions were poor and visibility was limited. Fields and wooded areas in the region can create shadows that distort the apparent size and posture of animals moving quickly across uneven terrain. Despite these considerations, both officers maintained that the creature they pursued did not resemble a normal dog or wolf. Spauer later repeated his description in interviews, stating that the animal's ability to run upright was the most unusual aspect of the encounter. He insisted that the creature moved with a steady stride on 2 legs before dropping back to 4 when it changed direction. The case remained widely discussed during the late 1960s and early 1970s as newspaper coverage spread the story beyond Ohio. Articles referencing the incident appeared in several regional publications and were later summarized in cryptozoological research, discussing reports of large, upright canine creatures in North America. Over time, the Ravenna sighting became one of the more frequently cited examples of a law enforcement cryptid encounter because it included official reports and radio dispatch records. These documents confirmed that the officers had pursued an animal across several miles of rural terrain, and that the incident had been recorded in department logs immediately afterward. The officers themselves did not claim to have encountered a supernatural creature. Their reports described an unidentified animal that behaved in ways they could not easily explain. The documentation therefore focused on observable details, such as the animal's posture, speed, and movement across the landscape. Later investigators reviewing the case considered several possible explanations. Some suggested that the officers may have pursued a large dog affected by injury or disease that altered its movement. Others proposed that a misidentified deer or other animal might have appeared upright while running through tall grass or uneven ground. However, the combination of 2 officers observing the same animal and pursuing it over several miles left the case unresolved in official records. No physical evidence such as tracks, hair, or a captured animal was recovered after the incident. The Ravenna encounter therefore remained defined by the original police reports and the newspaper coverage that followed. The event stood apart from many other cryptid sightings because it involved an extended pursuit rather than a brief glimpse. The officers observed the animal repeatedly over several minutes while attempting to follow it across open fields and rural roads. In the decades that followed, the Ravenna report continued appearing in discussions of unexplained animal sightings in the United States. Researchers examining the case often returned to the same core details recorded in the officers' statements: a large canine-shaped animal, the ability to run upright for extended distances, and a pursuit lasting several miles before the creature disappeared into wooded terrain. The significance of the report lay not in the claim of an unknown species, but in the documentation produced during the incident. Radio calls, written statements, and newspaper reports created a record that allowed later investigators to reconstruct the sequence of events with unusual clarity compared with many other cryptid sightings. Across the United States, stories of unusual creatures have often emerged from isolated encounters in forests, deserts, and rural farmland. Some involve brief sightings, others involve tracks, photographs, or unusual sounds recorded in remote landscapes. Most fade quickly because little information is preserved beyond the witness statement. The Ravenna pursuit differed because the encounter entered official records immediately and was later confirmed by multiple independent sources. Even though the animal was never identified, the event demonstrated how a routine patrol could suddenly become an unusual case that remained discussed for decades. Cryptid reports across the United States share certain recurring elements: nighttime encounters, remote environments, and animals seen only briefly before disappearing into terrain that prevents closer inspection. When witnesses encounter unfamiliar shapes or movements in these conditions, the resulting descriptions often emphasize the features that stood out most strongly in memory. Law enforcement reports, such as the Ravenna case, show how such encounters are recorded when trained observers are involved. Officers document time, location, and observable details while avoiding speculation about the nature of the animal. This method preserves a factual record even when the identity of the creature remains uncertain. Across many decades, similar encounters have appeared in rural police logs and local newspapers throughout the country. Each report adds another entry to the long record of unexplained wildlife sightings that occasionally emerge from remote landscapes where human observation is brief and conditions are imperfect. The Ravenna case remained one of the most frequently cited law enforcement sightings because it combined several unusual factors: two officers witnessing the same animal, a pursuit lasting several miles, and official documentation created immediately afterward. Those elements ensured that the event remained accessible for later investigation. Even without a final identification, the incident illustrates how encounters with unfamiliar animals can enter public record through routine reporting systems. When such reports involve credible witnesses and written documentation, they often remain part of regional history long after the event itself has passed. Throughout the United States, many similar accounts have been recorded by residents, hunters, and law enforcement officers, describing animals that did not match known species at the time they were seen. Some were later explained through scientific analysis. Others remain unresolved due to the absence of physical evidence. The Ravenna pursuit stands among the cases where documentation exists, but identification remains incomplete. Patrol cars moved across fields before sunrise. Radio messages were transmitted through dispatch channels, and officers wrote reports describing what they believed they had seen. Those records preserved a moment when a routine patrol intersected with an unusual encounter on a quiet, rural road. The officers described an animal that moved differently from any they had encountered before. The pursuit ended without capture, but the written report remained. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.